What's up, y'all? Shawn of the Shred. So coming at you with another ML video. This is my 550. It's 2008. A little while back when it was cold, I got the battery notification on my dash information system area. So obviously I went ahead and replaced the battery. In doing so, I replaced the main battery, not realizing that there was a small accessory battery back there as well. So welcome to my back seat. I'm going to be replacing the battery with a small accessory battery, which is down there underneath this plastic piece where you can see those vents. So I'm about to pull that up and show you that process, and this hopefully will take care of my accessory issues. To get to your battery and access it under there easily, what you got to do is you actually got to move this front passenger seat all the way forward. So go ahead and move that all the way up. And then we'll go ahead and lift the back up as well to give us as much clearance as possible, because the battery, the big battery that you have to pull out of there, is like the size of a Kia. So that will now give you all that extra room and you can pull it out. The big battery has to come out at a 45-degree angle pretty much, and it is a monster. The one I took out of here was actually called Megatron, so that gives you an idea. So yeah, let's do that. It's a little bit dirty back here. Don't judge me, I'll clean it. So basically just pop that off from the bottom and pull it up and out there. And then you'll see you've got your vent tube here, which has to come out. This little thing right here, which is basically what holds that in place. Now, if you've never taken it out before, you're gonna have to cut this carpet right across here because it is in one piece right there typically. So if you slice through there nicely though, you can do so pretty easily. And then you just tuck it off back in there. Okay, so here's a better look at that little pin that's holding it in. It's one of those that pops up. So if you have an interior removal type tool where you can pop that up and then take it out, be careful when you pop it up though, because if you pop it up and it pops all the way out of there too far, you may not necessarily retain it as easily. You can use that, pop that guy out of there like that, and then you can remove this vent, and the vent just twists right on out of there. So there, this tucks off in there all nice and snugly. So okay, so now that we've got that vent out of the way, we can go ahead and pop that up, and that just slides its way out of there. Go ahead and set that aside, and now you can see that big old ginormous battery off in there. And the one we're trying to get to is that tiny little guy right there. So need to get this guy out to get that guy out. Okay, so I loosened that front one. Obviously that back one is a little bit further tucked back there to get to. It's kind of hard to see the depth on there, but that is pretty far down deep in there. So it's best if you have an extension, possibly two. Even better if you can add something else in there as well. Right there. Off in there. Alright, so that definitely makes that a lot easier. So if you got some, use them. Alright, so now that I made a mess again, let me vacuum that up again. take off that positive cable. And then it's just a matter of pulling this big old monster out, which is easier said than done. Your vent tube is right here on this side, so be careful not to rip and break that. You want to disconnect that with a preferably non-sweaty hand. Get that little vent tube off there, and then I would probably angle it up a little bit so that way you don't hit it on this lip when you're trying to take it out, because it can be a close call, as you will see. Okay, FYI, those nuts down there that you got to take off are 13 millimeter. So set aside your 10 for your battery terminal connections if that's what you're using, and grab you a 13 to take those off. It's a good indicator it's all the way off. Now, hopefully you have a magnetic grabber tool. If you don't, I highly recommend that you get one off of Amazon. They are awesome. So boom, 2 nuts, 1 shot. Oh, well, it's always good to hear some gunshots in the daytime. All right, so if you get a heavy duty enough one, you can probably also use it to pull this up to where you can actually grab a hold of it and pull it out of there. So now the battery should lift right up out. And like I said, you should probably get a heavy duty one just to be on the safe side, because some will lift stuff like this and some won't, so get it. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this guy out now since it's loose, and like I said, it is kind of awkward because of the angle, so you got to kind of tilt it up and then move that, because the handle gets in the way and probably slip out of your hands numerous times, or you can try it without using the handle. But you got to be able to pull it up at like a 45-degree angle. Once you get it up, you can rest it on the edge, on that lip, and then kind of slide it up and out that way. Again though, it's not a tiny battery. So, I mean, it's pretty good sized. Just so you have an idea, that's how you get that guy out from that submerged cavity. And then you got to get this little case out so that you can get that battery out. So that's next. Okay, so let's go in for a close-up there of this other battery and see. So there is a nut right in between those 2 Allen torque style bolts. I believe they're torque bolts, hard to see from here, but yeah, so you want to take that off to get that bracket out. The other side there's nothing, so it looks like it should just be that one. It'll lift off, and then I can take that small little battery out that's been giving me a headache. So that combo is too long. Just the ratchet with the regular 10 was too short. The edges hit around the sides of the nuts, so I had to get a 10 deep socket out. So if you've got a 10 millimeter deep socket, that's probably what you're going to need to get in there. So all right, so got that loose. Let's get it out. Okay, so quick little tip. When you're going to take this guy out, this is what the tab on the back of it looks like. So as you tilt it up, you're going to want to turn it left or right, depending on your preference and clearance to just get that little corner out of that tab, because it fits off back in that T section right there. So also make sure when you go to put it back in that you slide it down in there the right way and it gets mounted securely. Okay, so got a little battery out. That's the number for the stock Mercedes battery. In searching, I came up with this as the replacement. So that's all the info on that. The only thing about this battery is that I can see is different is that the polarity connections are reversed. So on this one, just make sure that you hook the correct one to the correct side. Other than that, it's also just a tad bit thinner, as you can see there. When it's lined up flat on that side, it does have a little bit of overhang on this side. Now, one other thing to mention, when you get this, if you order it online like I did, it'd be wise and also safe to put this on a trickle charger if you have one that accommodates this type of battery. I have a small battery tender that is perfect for this, so I put it on there, and it took about 3 or 4 hours, but it did get it back up to a full charge. So I wanted to make sure that I put it in with a full one. You might benefit from doing the same. Man, should have done this with the flash on again. Let me, boom. So got it down in there and connected, and the only real difference is the polarity, which, like I said, it's real easy. You got plenty of wire right there to be able to just pull one from one side and another. It's not a big deal, just swap them out. The other thing you'll notice is that since it is a little bit smaller, it wiggles around a little bit. You do have this here that you can push up against it, and also this little tab right here on the side. If you push it in, now it is much more secure. You've got another one right back here. You can do the same thing, and then also on the other side. So if you adjust them down a little bit before you put the battery in, it'll be a much tighter fit, but that is secure enough for my needs. So yeah, that's how you adjust it to make sure it's tight enough and doesn't wiggle around in there a lot. So there you go. Tucked the positive and the negative cables off back under there a little bit better, so that way they don't get in the way while I'm trying to drop in the big old monster that goes in there. So let me clean this out real quick, and then I will continue with the big battery and we'll be done. Clean off your terminals. If you've got a wire brush, that works wonders. Something else that you can use that I highly recommend is this guy, and this is so much easier. Boom. Plus, if you don't know, also opens up and lets you clean, come on camera, focus, clean the terminal connectors as well. So that's what's going to happen now. Alright, so if I could pull this out further I would, but I can't, so I won't. So now, most people probably won't care about cleaning the crap off the outside of it, but oops, not most people. Alright, so gives us a nice clean inside, positive as well. That one's a little bit more stretched, so you gotta kind of get in there. But there we go. Alright, quick and easy. So back on the POV cam. hook these cables up out of here again so that way they don't cause any issues or get underneath when I'm trying to drop the battery in, because you don't want to have to drop it in and then pull it back out and drop it in and pull it back out. Ask me how I know. Not to mention this battery weighs probably about 45 pounds. So it's not necessarily the easiest thing to be manhandling at this kind of angle while you're leaned over a seat. Admittedly though, much easier to put in than it was to take out. Okay, so make sure the tube is clear down there, which it is. Okay, so we need to grab that, pull that up here before we can put the bracket in place. But right now we got it in, we can go ahead and lock it down. You want to connect up your tube here, turn that back facing south, and then put your connections back on. Start with your positive, lock it down, and then put on your negative, and then we will cover this all back up and finish it off. All right, so almost done. Got all the pieces now to cover it up and put everything back all cleaned off and pretty. I'm about to put the battery terminals back on, put the battery tie down back in place, and then put those plastic pieces in the vent back on. So let's stop for some water. Gotta hydrate. Very important. Stay hydrated, especially if it's hot out. So positive. Fairly straightforward. Push right back down on there. I like to wiggle it back and forth while I'm pushing down on it to make sure you get it nice and secure on there. Tighten by my finger just to kind of get it stabilized there. Now let me grab that vent tube, and we're going to go ahead and actually let me just move it out of the way for a second while I put this little brace down there. Now I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can lower this down in there that way. Oh, that's perfect. I'm telling y'all, you need one of those. So then, the easiest way to do this, I've found, is to just connect your nut right to the bottom of the magnet. That way you can look over down in there, find where it goes, twist it backwards first to make sure there's no cross-threading. Then after get it on there, and can lock in a twist or two. And you should be able to pull it right off. Couple twists on there, boom, pull it off. If it's threaded on there right, then the bolt should hold on to the nut. If it's not threaded on there right, likely it won't have a good enough grip and it'll come back off with the magnet. So then make sure you connect this vent tube back up, which you should have plenty of slack. Mine's got a good several extra inches. Put that back on there, tighten that back down, grab your 13 mil and go ahead and drop that down in there. Let's hand tighten that down so we don't have to waste a bunch of ratchet time. Same thing there, hand tight. Snap that on there, and then basically About another full turn and it's nice and locked in place. Same thing on this one here, about one full turn. And it is not going anywhere. So now we got positive on there. We got it locked in place. Let's throw the negative back on there and we will have power again. All right. Again, push it down, wiggle it just a little bit. Okay. So, if you lift this carpet up right here, you can line it up with this edge and this little notch. So that's your support that goes underneath it. So to get it right where it needs to go, line it up with that, and then you should be able to pop these down in there, and that fits in with this corner, and then it's locked down in place. Next, you'll grab this guy and just feed it along underneath here. All right, and then you should feel when it fits down in there nice and snug. It's got to go between all that carpet and foam under there, so it does take a little bit of finagling, but get it pressed up in there. Okay, there we go. Push that first little piece off in there, and then this pin goes in there to press it out and create the tension that holds it down. Then you can pull this guy back over, and at this point you'll possibly realize, like I did, that you didn't vacuum up any of this and have to pull the vacuum out and do it again, but that's all right. Let's push it under there. Boom. All right. Oh man, I think the camera was tilted the whole time, huh? There you have it. That's battery replacement for both the main and the small accessory into a ML. Should be across the board, I would guess. ML 320, 350, whatever it is, 500, 550. I don't know. Do your research and look. If that's where it is, that's how you do it. Thanks for watching.